Yo guys, this is Reinhardt and I'm gonna be making video about luck talents. And first of all, I want to apologize to you guys for not making videos for the past week because I had some serious real life issues. One of my best friends passed away and I had to deal with it. Such is life. But anyway, let's move on. For the luck talents, I'm gonna be giving you guys overall huge overview with, and I'm gonna be separating by two parts, first three and the last two, and the level 90 right now are not available. First of all though, I wanna make a huge call out to Unholy One, the guy who actually hooked me up with the beta. Thanks a lot, man. Just because of him I'm basically able to provide you guys with some content for Mr. Pandaria. So let's get started. Dark Regeneration. It basically heals you for 50% of your HP and increases all healing received by roughly 20%. Fell armor is a baseline, so it is actually not 50%, it's more like 60-65%. Although when you do a soul link, it will be taking some of your heals from you and actually healing your pet at the same time. So my partake on that is it's decent, but that's basically it. It is decent. The biggest problem with that is a 3-minute cooldown, and even though it does provide some burst healing, especially when we get trained and the healer has to pick us up, the problem I see with it though is that it's basically a long cooldown and hinders us in terms of survivability in the long run. It's gonna be fun in duels, but that's basically everything what it comes down to. Dual healing. The next talent, I think in my opinion, is a complete garbage tool because it heals us for roughly 400, 500 HP, and it's basically when we're casting Malefic Grasp. Why I think it's garbage? Because it can be interrupted and it doesn't heal for as much. I don't think it's even useful in PvP. I think there has to be some kind of rework with that actually talent. And last one that I actually want to talk about is Harvest of Life. It basically heals you from 3 to 4.5% and it heals up from 3 targets. As you guys can see, it heals me roughly right now for about 5.5k, and that's with a bad gear ungemmed. So with a full PvP gear, I would expecting anywhere from 6.5 to 7k healing. I think it's actually pretty decent in terms of our sustained healing. To top it off, what I also like about this talent is basically interrupts are getting nerfed, and with a nerf we can be casting our self-healing straight into their faces. And the biggest thing what I like about this talent is this clip over here. Basically when you soul burn and Harvest of Life, it heals you for roughly 300% extra. And I'm sorry I'm backpedaling because I just lagged and put some skills and stuff. But look at the healing right now. You see I'm almost dead. And it heals me for roughly 18k per tick. And that's with the crappy gear. It basically gives me an ability to top myself up. The problem with that is if we get interrupted while we soul burn healing, it's gonna be pretty bad. And the soul burn, the way it works, it's 15-second baseline cooldown, but the ability individual, when you soul burning it, it's 1 minute cooldown. So it is a 1 minute cooldown. But I think it's actually one of the better talent out of all three, because when we need a burst healing, we can soul burn Harvest of Life, and when we need sustained healing, we can just spam Harvest of Life as a sustained healing at the same time. So that's it for our first tier, which is survivability talents. By the way guys, you see there's a lot of fucking static and there's a lot of purple shit. Well, basically I'm not smoking weed and you're not smoking that also. The problem actually, however, over here is it's Blizzard's product in beta. So yes, there's a lot of glitches and a lot of stuff. So I kind of bashed at Blizzard too much in the beginning because let's face it, I wasn't very delighted with how they handled the beta, but looking at the beta right now, oh yeah, I understand that. So second tier is basically we have Hall of Terror, which is basically just like Hall of Terror and it's insta cast. Then we also have Coil, which heals us for 45% and it's a horror effect, which is not on diminishing returns with fear, and Shadow Fury. So let's get started with the Hall of Terror. What I like about Call of Terror is AoE Fear, and it's a really good AoE peel. Another thing what I like about Call of Terror, if you guys can see, when we get melee attacked, the cooldown is actually reduced by 1 second, and it doesn't look like there's a really good like internal cooldown on it. So it's basically refreshed every time the mob attacked me. So with that said, when we're getting trained by melee cleave, this is actually could be a potentially a very good talent. The draw side of it is it shares diminishing returns with our other fears. The next one is we have a Death Coil, or whatever. So basically it does a little bit of a damage, it puts a horror effect on the target, which is not on diminishing return with our fear, and on top of it, it heals us for about 50% of the top HP. It's a decent defensive cooldown, don't get me wrong. It also does not share diminishing return with fears, which is nice. It kind of affects like a stun, and compared to this coil that we have right now, it's 45-second cooldown, down from 2 minutes. The negative part about it is we can always soul burn fear, as you guys can see right now, and it does share diminishing returns with soul burn fear. So it's a give and take. Again, there's positive about it and the drawbacks. I think it's gonna be very good in duels because our fears are gonna be instant cast, and this coil is gonna be really good self-healing for us. Outside of that, I would still think that the Howl is a little bit more superior. Next talent we have is Shadow Fury. What I like about Shadow Fury is that it's basically a good stun. It's a AoE stun. It's something that we can apply on range, so the value of it rises up. Howl is only going to be accessible in melee, and sometimes when you're doing RBGs or entries and you get locked in on a place, well, Howl is not very easy to pull off. But with the Shadow Fury it kind of changes it, because when you Shadow Fury, it's basically will allow us to do it on a range. I don't see any potential drawbacks except for they nerfed the cooldown on it down to 30 seconds from 20, which is a original destruction talent. Another thing I see is when we're running with somebody else who has a lot of stuns, it will DR their stuns. So I think that the second tier control for Lux is gonna be solely dependent on what you're gonna like and what kind of comp do you run. If it's RLS, then Howl or Death Coil is probably gonna be a much better choice. And if you run with somebody who doesn't have a lot of stuns per se, maybe like Shadow Priest in the Shadow play, then Shadow Fury is gonna be much better because Shadow Priest will have fear of his own. So you're not gonna be DRing each other. The next one we have is Survivability talent, and I'm gonna talk about the first of all is Souling, which is actually pretty good. It's still good. It mitigates 20% of the damage, but the draw side of it is that it now also mitigates the roughly about 20% of the healing received as well. So whatever damage we receive and whatever healing we receive is gonna be redirected to pet. It also replaces our health funnel, so we cannot heal our pet outside of it. So those are the negative part about it, but Souling has always been a solid choice, so I'm not 100% sure. Right now I cannot really show you guys Souling because it's bugged. It doesn't show how much it hits our pet, and as you guys can see, it disappears every time I'm trying to reapply it. So it's bugged, it needs to be fixing. After that I can actually say if it's worth the talent point or not. The next one what we have is actually a pretty good thing. It's called Sacrificial Pack. It basically gives us the, right now on PTR, because my pet doesn't have a lot of HP, it puts about 97k absorption shield on me. But I think on the higher levels it can get up to 110 and 120k, which I think is actually really good. The biggest thing is though, not gonna have a Souling, so without a Souling we're gonna be taking a lot of damage, and to top it off, its pet is gonna be taking extra damage. So sometimes if our pet is not topped off, I think we might actually get a little bit less mitigation. And last but not least with that talent is I want to know if it's dispellable or not. I haven't seen it being dispellable, but I still didn't get a duel anybody who is good enough to dispel it, so we'll see in the future. What I forgot to talk about the Sacrificial Pact or whatever that's called is that bubble is only 1 minute cooldown, so there's a good chance of it being dispellable. The Dark Bargain on the other hand is our last talent on survivability tree, and it does basically acts as a polybubble with a twist, so to say. And now what I'm saying with the twist is basically it makes us immune to any damage you take for 10 seconds. But the draw side about it is, by the way, cool animation, is that it's a 3-minute cooldown, which is relatively long, and it also, after it fades, we take about 50% of the total damage we took already, and basically a dot on us. So the good sides of it is that it's basically acts as a bubble, which I think is funny. Maybe we can actually do bubble Hearthstone for lols. But the draw side is it's longer cooldown, and it basically acts as a freaking Undying Resolve, which is already we have a shield wall. So in my opinion, the first two picks are gonna be greatly outweighing. I think I still prefer Souling, but I will need to see how good is gonna be the other one, the Sacrificial Pack, and if it's gonna be dispellable or not. Because if it is dispellable, then it stinks donkey balls. So that's it, guys, for the first 3 talents. We revised the 3 talents, which is Survivability, then it was Control, and then it was Survivability again. Now I'm gonna be making another video explaining the last 2 talent trees, and then once I get 90 level and Mr. Pandaria was be open, I'll make another video. Thank you guys for watching. Please do everybody a favor and subscribe to Evolve Gaming. We work really hard to provide you guys with the best quality content possible. And до свидания. See you later.